I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise
Tell them
up.
we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise up.
I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon'
I
rise
tell them
up.
we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise up.
Please, Lord, forgive them. They try to hold back and chillin' like they ain't know it was written. Break every chain. Wanna free my people from mental prisons. With your eyes on the sparrow, I know we'll narrow divisions. Hope is the boat that keep us afloat just as you envision. Faith to erase the pain from all of our people slain. That's the good change. Actions to back up your spoken name. When they throw dirt on ours, we use it to plan game. When it rains, we go greater together, no matter the weather. Trust these dark days, gonna get better. Know that love will be the light to guide all our endeavors. And even if the tide should rise, we'll ride it forever. Why? We are mighty, we'll fight for our lives, cause we're dying to live. Future is ours, the timing is now. Black and we proud, we saying it loud, we gave it a roar. Still so much more to give, we breaking down all the walls. I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise
Tell them
up.
we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise up.
I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon'
I
rise
tell them
up.
we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise up.
Never backing down for the cause. Try to put our life on pause, cause we move in the image of God. No matter the hate that's spoken, our spirits remain unbroken. The divine man says you can't count us out. We are the answer. From the youth to the elders, ain't much you can tell us. Style and brilliance of mind, heart is bright as sunshine. Warrior spirits alive, so no, we won't be denied. So vibration is high and the frequency so angelic, like
Rise up. People, come on. Rise up. Rise up. Rise up. Ooh.
I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise
Tell them
up.
we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise up.
I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon'
I
rise
tell them
up.
we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise up. Rise up. Rise up. Oh, rise up.
Yeah, family. You know what it is? Monday. So that means it is time for Soundbytes International Radio, where African consciousness is the claim.
Our world is the aim.
Absolutely. Bring a conversation pertinent to our diasporic landscape to help heal you, and you.
And you.
All across the globe,
Give
family.
thanks.
So, of course, I'm Hasirka Nefarad, and this
And
is
that's right too, my auntie Rada.
absolutely. So, we appreciate you. Tap in, not y'all, but y'all.
You tapping. You tapping.
Appreciate y'all tapping with us this evening. Enjoy the conversation. Please make sure you share the link, share the video, and join the conversation. Right? You know, we always appreciate sharing with the family and building. And you know, it's not just. We always say it's not just us like talking at y'all. It's really us talking with y'all. Let's have a conversation around it. We love to share your comments and share your thoughts on the broadcast. And just chat, family. This is the family meeting. This is the get together, the congregation. So let's get into that feeling. You know, remember to keep tapping in with us. If you're on Facebook and YouTube, we are live on both platforms. Soundbytes International Radio on both. So make sure you're tuned in, locked in to the conversation. Before we get started, peace and power. We see you in there. Thank you for joining us. It's the Melly Queen. We have Allah Day, peace and power. Thank you
I'm
for
getting
joining
the link
in.
right now for the he wants the link to rise up to the sound rise up.
Okay, bless. That
for you
sounds
right
good.
now, beloved.
Oh, we appreciate that. Thank you. Peace and power. Thank you for joining the conversation. Please share the broadcast, and please share your thoughts on anything we're speaking about this evening. So we do appreciate you joining in. I'm Path P out here, the one that made the song. So so appreciate the love. Definitely. So yes, peace and power, Melly Queen. We appreciate you, sister, tapping in today. Before we get started today's conversation, and we just got the saddening news. We just got a new ancestor out here. News that just heard from our Baba Kaba Kameen. The Renoko Rashidi has joined the ancestors. He's left us today. Just got the news. So we send strong shade to him, his family, all of those that follow, and all those that are impacted by his words, his wisdom, and his education. So we pour out for him. Well, this napkin, not have dish, but Ashe, may he rise in power and continue to bless us and beyond in this world. So absolutely, Ashe. Yes. So we are here this evening. We're gathered here today. We're here this evening because we want to talk about something that's just very important, especially as Africans that are in business, so to speak. For those that were with us last season, we had the African in Business series where we tapped in with different African-owned businesses.
Yes.
And for those, for anybody that's tuning in for the first time or what have you, we speak as African as all our people, not just African in continent, but African here on this U.S. soil, or in any continent or any country across the globe. We are Africans. And we honor our African. Wherever you are, you're African.
Wherever you at,
your blood,
you're
your descendant. You are African, and so we honor you. We honor you in that sense. We honor you as our Earth's family. So we address you as such here on this broadcast. And we had an African in Business series to highlight different African-owned businesses that particularly cater, especially their services and goods to the African community. Keeping those things in mind, particularly whether it's the ingredients of skin care or beauty care products, or the foods or the drinks. We had a shout out to was it Ginger Cottage?
Ginger, Ginger,
Ginger. Yes, absolutely. Ginger Cottage.
Beya. Yeah,
absolutely. Shouts out. Our educational practices, our sister Melly Queen, educating the youth.
That's right.
Absolutely. Whether it's it's CMOS or the expatriation process is what our brother Chris Waller. Absolutely. So we try.
Sister Nia Cosmetics.
That's
our
brother.
Nia Cosmetics.
Nia Cosmetics, excuse me.
Our
sister Hania with her
and
products.
Our brother Joseph Goins.
Absolutely, bars. Yes, absolutely. Big shout out to our brother Joseph Goins, aka AJ Throwback, for his programming on bars. Unfortunately, he's no longer running. But he's running as long as us. 5 years. Shouts out to Standing Strong, bringing just a more global minded mindset around the content, from music to to institutions, to education, to finance, all covering the gamut. So that's another brother we appreciate in the realm. We had his last broadcast last week, so we give shouts out to him for always being a supporter as well. And shouts out to all those Africans that have been in business that we've highlighted thus far, that are bringing education in all pieces and products.
And we had one of our elders, Dr. Baba Mulemu, co-founder at Akoben Institute, who produces a number of educational, I believe he's up at this point at 36 publications under Akoben Publishing Company. He and his wife, Mama Ya, hold the fort, fortifying our youth, our community, by holding educational seminars, courses. They have a educational program, high school program, after school program, rites of passage programs, and several different educational support services across the gamut of an African-centered lifestyle, restructure your consciousness and mentality, and also community building and restructuring, and a number of other necessary parts of our living experience is supported through the gamut of the work, because at this point we have so many reference materials, and the majority of the reference materials we have, which is going to lead us into our context today for our communication around business and how do we fortify in African that is supportive of the African landscape, but our default behaviors are based on what we've been trained. And unfortunately, we don't have reference materials. We don't have African people in the classroom because from education I was in school from 2 years, 8 months. So from 2 years, 8 months through your entire life process, up into college, up into high school, you'll still interact with yourself as ancillary. So you'll never learn to put yourself and your community as a priority on the top of your list of to do things. So therefore, you'll never build a strong African-centered consciousness around what that looks like. So you need some reference material.
Right.
You need some people that you can look to that are holding a staunch African-centered consciousness. I'm not talking about the blended conversation. I'm talking about the reality of an African is you should be able to wake up and be yourself and be in the world. Like a Chinese man is going to wake up in the world as a Chinese man. He's going to be Chinese wherever he goes.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have to take off Chinese. And now they choose to because they also assimilate to certain aspects of white-centered consciousness within the system as having somewhat paid homage to the system by succumbing to it. Because I've spoken to Asian folks and I would never even know they were an Asian person until I actually saw them. So there's no Asian accent, but I'm sure they have their culture. That's not for me to say. My point is, this man is Asian. This man is East Indian. This man is from whatever part of the planet that he's from, and he can stand in that, and he doesn't have to negotiate that. He doesn't have to. Some choose to. As African people, as a survival mechanism, and for us to eat, we were forced to have to.
Yeah, we feel like we have to.
Like we had to. There was a time we actually had to because it was our life dependent upon it. And because of the way that chattel slavery and enslaved Africans were brought here to America, fear was the rod of correction. So it was how we learned everything about our existence interacting with white-centered consciousness system that we live in today. So we've now normalized our subordinate posture and our learned helplessness as okay and as right that we don't think outside of that. So when you come back to Baba Malemu and his wife, Mama Ya, and the Akobin Institute, you want to definitely check in with some of those materials. Baba also holds, and Mama Ya holds, a quarterly men's and women's meeting that comes every 3 months. This year has been healing, has been Mama Ya's journey, and manhood has been for Baba Malemu. So I just really want you to have a reference material on staunch, because we don't have a lot of examples. A lot of our examples are very blended and very gray area-ish, so it's very difficult for us to interact with people that are not having a wavering conversation. I should be able to be in the world with anybody, within relationship with anybody, in communication with anyone, without having to compromise my African-centered birthright, heritage, and otherwise. I should not, and you should not, and no African should. And when we get to that consciousness, we'll make different types of decisions. And that's where we come from. That's where I specifically come from. I refuse to have to negotiate. I should be able to go to work, do business, conduct commerce, move about the world planet, have conversations, and interact with people, build family, have weddings, baby showers, whatever we're going to do about our social landscape without having to negotiate my commitment to be an African. Which encompasses certain value systems and behaviors and language and entertainment and different things that we do are going to be based in that. And I should be fine with that. That should be fine with everybody. Since we live in a world where everybody can just kind of do whatever, I should be able to do my whatever and be all right with that. Without having to be punished, because of the system that we've lived in, African people punish other African people for being African. Because of anti-blackness, because of the society that we've lived in, beats us with punishment of fear of being authentic. Because your goal was to succumb to the system, succumb to the matrix, succumb to the massa.
And what that tends to
But
what that tend to lead to is that we've so grown accustomed to this idea of integration. When you were speaking, the integration conversation came to mind. Just how that was such a staunch idea back then, and of course with the civil rights movement, things of that nature. Until of course like our leaders, like Brother Martin, realized how deeply entrenched that fight was, but it actually was for the wrong reasons. And now we see the end results or the residue or outcome of that fight of integration. So now it's, if you're fighting for the idea of separatism, so to speak, or being your authentic African self in spaces that aren't readily made, for you to be in your full African self, then that's like in relation to someone's going to just see my blackness and your blackness and our blackness going to look together. You're going to fumble the bag for me if you act like that, because then they're going to think that I'm going to act like that and I'm just trying to survive and get through the matrix. Some of those the conversation. If you're assessing the landscape of, sternly, that's the conversation that tends to be had without having those words actually being said. And this is what they're actually saying. You bringing up that blackness too much. You can't, don't be talking that blackness over here from black folks. African folks saying
don't talk that black stuff.
Don't talk that black stuff. We had that told at our own wedding. Don't talk that black stuff, and that's another story.
At our wedding,
at our own wedding,
which was an African-centered wedding.
All of the
entire wedding process, everything, the traditions, everything was from our heritage and our culture that we built.
So you can understand, even in that particular concept, that that's a mindset that existed within the space of a private space. So imagine what the conversation is on a public landscape. We talk about people at your job, people that you're seeing in the supermarket. That one black person's acting up in some type of way, then that means the other black people are on guard and hoping that they're not getting lumped in to the whole conversation. And that's the fear that a lot of us that have not been ready to break free of assimilation from the matrix have succumbed to, versus standing like upright within the identity as an African in any space that you're in, and holding down that fort, right? Because of fear of being the one against the many versus being the one to help curate the many.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's important that we look to that and we can understand whatever quote unquote risks we're taking, but because those risks are in the face of an enemy that already is existing. There is actual gain in standing more and more in the space to be for a lot of other Africans, Ubuntu, the permission, right, to be African and you're in it, to be in your full self, the Kuchi Chagolia, to get the self-identification, understanding, to own yourself, right? So this is what we kind of have to deal with in the double-edged sword, the double-pieced battle of not only battling what the system of oppressions and white extremism and colonialism and all these things, what they're fighting that off as it still very prevalently exists, also fighting our own people that are readily available to submit and fight for that particular system. So it's different pronged, and this is the things we have to be mindful of, and I think that what that lends to itself, and we can get into the conversation for today.
Yes, please.
Is really looking at a lot of conversation that have existed was like, well, you look at capitalism and how it's shaped kind of the U.S. landscape and how it's global landscape, right? Like things can't happen without money, right? Which is what's the story being told. That things can't happen without money. You need transactions, you need commerce, you need currency, you need these things for A to happen. For you to get from A to Z, you have to have that transaction take place, right? Versus this was all just created as a controlling system in order to make one person feel like the lesser and one person feel like they're in the powerful seat, right? And then it creates these caste systems and these systems of hierarchy, these systems of superiority or feelings of superiority. And this is what we battle within this. So those that have money, they're the ones that are in power. They're the ones that are the elite. So if you're not having that, if you're not discussing richness, you're not discussing wealth, if you're not discussing money, discussing, it's also disgusting, but discussing wealth and riches and money within your family dynamic, then you're missing out on what's going on in the space. And there's a part of that that's true if you're looking to continue to assimilate to this system, right, and continue to have that particular system flowing. Because if you want to look at where your money's going. Is your money going to African business, to African homes, African villages, to African people, to the build, to the restructuring of the African village across the diaspora, or is it just going back into the system as it's been given to you? Right? Are you working for these corporations and working for these schools and all these places that uphold Eurocentric standards of money and capitalism, of wealth, and what's hot, what's not? Right? You're working in these spaces, getting that money, and then taking it and then going to pushing it back out into those spaces. Because if commerce, if money is important, if finances are important, if finances essentially mean some sort of look to freedom, right, financial freedom, right, within this system, then where are those finances actually going, and who is being deemed as free right, as a result, right? So we want to look at these things, right? And we want to look at that. There's many pieces to what freedom and liberation look like for our people. Black capitalism is almost like an oxymoron, so to speak, right? Because of what capitalism has created. But the idea of keeping finances and keeping money and keeping the resources to keep the dynamic alive,
right?
That's what matters, right? And it doesn't have to just look like money, right? It could look like sharing of resources, sharing of knowledge, sharing of skills, sharing of talents, sharing of space, of time, of energy, right? And also sharing of money, businesses, who's in business that you're supporting that has not just soaps or oils, but who has a detergent, who has the toilet paper, who has the sunglasses and for, you know, when we're going out to the beach to have a good time, who has the towels, who has you know, the TVs, who has the things that we're using in everyday life that aren't supplied by a Eurocentric space, right? Because what's become of that idea is that we're used to what we see around, whether it's an African shop or African spaces or festivals, that someone's selling oils, someone's selling some candles, someone's selling something scented, someone's selling something, it may be some sages or herbs or things of that nature. But we really get to understand that we actually supply everything we need within our community and nothing is without, right? Because it had to happen at some point in 1920s, when you talk about Black Wall Street and everything we had to do to survive and thrive in those times. And the reasons why those spaces were destroyed was because of that upright economic success and that independence on the village and independence from the social structure that is white extremism, systemic oppression, racism, and all those things. So living outside of those confines, and creating your own bubble and space where you get to thrive, right? That would be ideal. So how do we bring that back, right? Beyond the money, right? What does that sharing of resources look like? How do we interact with each other, right? As Africans, because it's actually more also than just selling to your fellow African or buying from your fellow African, but how are we moving in communication? How are we sharing the energy with one another? How do we show up for, you know, from the front door to checkout, you know, all those things? How are we continuing to create the customers and making a thing where I'm only going to shop with these folks over here. I'm only going to shop in this particular community. I'm only going to shop this particular town. Period. And why does that matter? Because everyone else does it. Excuse me, and it's important to culture. I got to sign this. No, yeah, it's ambivalence. Yes. You know, it's important to culture, and many other cultures recognize that. And what we've demonstrated over the years, what we demonstrated over generations, is that we have let go of the idea of that particular ownership and have succumbed to that idea of the can't beat them. If you can't beat them, join them mindset. We're petrified. Which leads to Stockholm syndrome, which leads to these white folks are holding the bag, and I need to make sure they're good so they can keep giving me the money, right? That's where a lot of us are in. I have to code switch. I have to put on my quote unquote white voice at work or when I'm on the phone. You know, I have to reshape who I am, reanimate, and I have to contort who I am as an African person and all my colloquialisms, how I walk and talk and eat and move when I'm home.
African speaking in mid-resonance English, the kings and queens English, etc. It's not the African's default language. It's not spiritually coded. It's something that we learn to do out of survival and out of necessity.
Right.
So speaking in the tongue of your oppressor is nothing to be proud of. Right. We've done it as a means of survival. It's not our first language. So looking and shunning, this is why, you know, we've come in contact with lots of people across our landscape. If you can't hear an African through all that, and you have to articulate them, they have to process through white-centered lens because that's what you've been accustomed to hear. Oh, I can't hear. Or we're speaking to continental Africans who have accents, and I'm like, you can't understand what she's saying? What's the problem? So you can't hear an African, but you can hear all this other stuff. And the default is to make fun of people or to shun them or to talk to them nasty or mistreat them because I've seen it. And I also need for our people to be the voices in these spaces when you see things going incorrect to correct them. Friends don't let friends do dumb shit.
Okay.
And all the time when we have people who are being whatever they're being, it always happens with a crew. It's always a bunch of y'all doing trifling malice and things like this. Somebody has to be in the space to step up and say, this isn't working.
Right.
We're not going to continue to do this.
Right. Sister Melly Queen says, I was in a meeting this weekend and a brother said to teach our children to be submissive to these tricks. I told him, hell fucking no. That's why we are out where we are now. Keep our feet on their necks unapologetically. Okay. Flip the whole table over on them. That's what we need to do. To keep the pressure on back. We got to put the pressure back.
But you know something?
And it's also not about them. It's about us. We got to keep the pressure on to keep us thriving in the space. It's the idea, and I think what a lot of us get caught up in when those that feel like they're in the gray area of this conversation is that it has to be in response to what they're doing or in reaction to what these folks are doing. No, it has to be in the call to action to support your community, help it thrive, and nothing else. Because the moment you do something in reaction to something else, then you've lost the actual initial purpose. You're throwing the energy off. Exactly. Right, you have to do it like you're to
be going in the right direction in order to get the right outcome.
Focus the energy.
You can't be malice. You can't be going in malice. You're supposed to go in with protection. You're supposed to always keep your head on a swivel. You're supposed to always be ready already. You're supposed to stay at a constant state of suspicious awareness at all times because you're in a hostile environment. So all that poo-poo and pandering and toxic positivity foolishness is bullshit. I need you to stop doing that because that's not okay. Where everything is not okay. Everything is not hunky-dory. We're not, when we're in a place of safety among our people, then we're okay.
Yes.
But nobody's free until everybody is free. And we're not free.
We're not.
And I'm not going to comfort African people to help them, inspire them to be more comfortable in oppression. Because in the long run, I know that it's not good for us. It hasn't been good for us. The best thing for African people, and I keep constantly saying, was, in our recent history, was right after Reconstruction. Right after Reconstruction was the best time for an African in the American landscape because we always depended on each other. We knew we had to, and we didn't have no choice. Right. We were happy to be with each other. We were happy to run our own schools and to be in service to each other. We were happy doing that. We didn't have criminology. We didn't have people stealing because if you were stealing from somebody, you probably were stealing from a family member. You probably were stealing from a cousin. We didn't have huge needs for prison systems. Excuse me, guys. I have this allergies going on. So we got to consider this. African in business, what are we doing in our practical behavior that is going to help us to do better business in terms of understanding where we catalog ourselves? Because we do business with African people. We have an exact intention. And you know something? The people that are in your community selling to you don't spend no money with nothing you have. What do Asian people buy from Black folks? Nothing. All they do is they mimic our culture. They like the kids like rap and b-boy and bebop and hip-hop and all of that. They like the clothes. They like the trends. Their parents like trading, buying stock in the companies that sell that garbage back to us.
Right.
Their parents like to do that. Where's a segment to that? That's what the kids like about African people, about Black people. They don't really like us per se because their grandparents and their parents have taught them shun anti-Blackness. That's what it is. Right. Shunned blackness. They are anti-Black.
Right.
And it is culturally taught in most other places. You're not a part of those conversations. I'm not a part of those conversations, but you know them by their fruit.
Right.
I don't need you to smile in my face for me to feel that you welcome me because I see what the collective behavior of all of your people is. And the reality of it is, all of these people who take money from your community, you don't provide any services that they need for them to be able to spend money with you, by and large.
They also understand that it's in their communities.
And also, why would they give their money to you anyway?
Yeah.
They said this is a word about African people, Black folks across America. They got whatever $2-3 that they have, just get their money. And I mean, this is what's happening with continental Africans come to the landscape. Africans from the diaspora come to this landscape here in America. Not just outside of the diaspora, within our diaspora, we have to deal with that behavior because we do it to each other. I've been treated, and see, I happen to have the sight and I happen to be able to read the code and see the behavior. I see the anti-Blackness in diasporic Africans, and we need to talk about this. Continental Africans, I see the anti-Blackness. I see the already judgment. I see the attitude towards Africans that are here in America for whatever reason, with a lack of understanding of the entire landscape, and the onus falls into personal choice. And yes, I tout personal choice and responsibility, because you can make a decision. You don't actually have to. But if I had a board right here, I would show some things and I would say, you know something? If I'm a little guy and here's a big guy, a little guy, white people, white set of consciousness, a big guy, all of the diaspora, the BIPOC, all black people, indigenous people of color, the entire rest of the planet that are people of color, and here it is, I'm 12%. What would I do to take down or to gain leverage on this big guy? Any and everything. That's what I do. That's what they've created. That's the environment that's been created. And now that means also tricking our communities among all the diaspora to work against itself. So our practical things that we can do on a daily basis, we would need to change our desires. Because we buy things that we don't produce because we have desires beyond what we can produce. We have desires for a lot of things that are in the matrix. The shiny object syndrome that they play us with every single day. They playing us with shiny object syndrome. All they gotta do is drop something right now. And all they gotta do is stamp Beyonce's name on it. Or put so-and-so's name on it. Or let such and such
some popular
be
black person.
Or take a real close-up picture of so-and-so in a certain pair of glasses. Everybody runs to get them. Shiny object syndrome. Just like this. It's a switch in your mind. It goes click, and you just go right get it. All they gotta do is say it's fly, and you go get it. Because you need to have it. See, African people didn't produce it. But this is how they heard you about all the time. Right. And this is why people from other cultures treat us the way they treat us. Because other cultures and communities know that if it's not going to benefit our community, we don't want it. We don't care what it is. Right. We don't want it. Period. And they don't buy it.
Right. Even and again with the example of like Asian kids, if you're gonna see an Asian kid that's a B-boy that's in, and we just talking about Asians as an example because
because it's
really across a bunch of different cultures, but they can buy all this shit from Nike. You know that whole, it's not like they're buying sweatsuits or they're fitted caps or whatever, or they're kicks from a black owned store, African owned store. They're not going to the hood to get that stuff. They're not going to Harlem to get some kicks so they can go make it happen, right? They're gonna get that from like Nike or Foot Locker or whatever stores that we don't own, right? Or if we don't have no stock in them or whatever. So it's if there's any way to pull from what they like without addressing the people, they'll do it, right? Any of these cultures, they'll do it, right? And then it's like, well, we can do stuff better with your resources than you. That's what tended to be conversated, even with continental Africans, right, so to speak, because they've had a framework that's been given to them on their side of the globe based on Western media, right, based on U.S. media, which savagely contorts a lot of narratives, especially when it comes to black and brown folks, right, within the U.S. They said, yes, go ahead.
Get on to our brother right here. He has asking a question right here.
Oh,
I beg your pardon.
Yes.
So he's inquiring about the popular trend of Asians dating and marrying only African males at home and abroad, and what is the reception? I mean, we really want to try to, stay tight as we can, but just to touch on it really quickly, sex is a weapon. Mm-hmm. Sex is a weapon when used in terms of war, in terms of creating what wouldn't I do to control this big thing? As in, I'm a small entity. I'm a small entity, and I need to gain leverage over all of this space. So all of these Africans. So yeah, creating children that are going to be inbred like the mulatto group that was the Africans, the children of the slave master and the slaves. We're gonna embed dissension in your home. We're gonna embed a Sambo. We're going to embed someone that's going to turn on the people. We're going to embed ambiguity. We're going to embed someone who, over the next 25 years, we're going to raise these up and we're going to give these special privileges above those. And it's going to create a mix. It's a social mix that's going on right now that has happened in America. It's been fully exploited. And it is absolutely turned out based on, if you really are familiar with the United Compensatory Code system by Baba Neely Fuller. And he talks about the 9 ways that the Matrix continues to manipulate African social landscapes through education, economics, law, politics, sex, and all of these entertainment, all these various facets, how it continues to unfold us.
Mhm.
So sex is one of them.
Right.
So diluting the relationship, diluting your commitment, because once you get into feelings, because now I'm feeling I love you, I just some love. And once you get into this feeling stuff, you're gonna have people who, just like right now in the African community, there are so many gray area pockets for so many things that are un-African centered, because now our feelings are involved with it.
Right.
And it's a part of our identity or our person or our commitment or our value system. Now we find value in this thing that is un-African or against African value systems or against your heritage, right? But it's going to stay because you're going to get people who are going to advocate for it because it's a part of them now.
Right.
So when you get people who are born biracial, you're going to have certain spaces where it's going to be a division of
loyalties,
dedication and
yeah,
loyalties,
yeah.
Split loyalties.
And I think
It's an automatic manifestation that comes out of that.
Right, and when you think of us, and even just really quick on that particular point, it's a really if you're doing that, you're clearly going to have to make a choice to figure out how to mitigate those circumstances that their child is going to go through, because they have to deal with the split loyalties and figuring out their loyalties and what's what. Look at Naomi Osaka, what's she going through in the whole situation of where's your loyalty? Are you Japanese? Are you Haitian today? Are you doing all these different things or whatever by virtue of just that happening. But now there's these convoluted conversations that these Africans have to have, right? But also in looking at how these other cultures, especially white cultures, right, and European cultures, they've understood already the dynamics of who we are as a people, that we are relationship-based people. That's why we feel so much.
Yep.
That's why we're very much familiar when it comes to anything we do. Everybody's cousin,
Everything.
right? So we're very much a feeling-based people, right? We don't want to feel betrayed. We want to feel triumphant together, this, and that. So when you look at something like, again, going back to the idea of integration and making that thing of this is what we're going to drill into your head, that this is what's going to make things better by you coming together with us, even though in the back end you don't realize, this is Eurocentric mindset talking, that we're actually not going to patronize anything you got, but you can patronize everything we got and uphold what we have, put your money where we are, get your mindset around what we do, so that you can continue to uphold our ideals. Even if it's not all of us, at least our ideals will be upheld in these other spaces. So you can't activate your full African mindset, your full African energy. That's not going to be in these particular spaces as long as we're the ones educating you, right? So you're looking at our school system and the dynamics of how these things are taught. All these pieces come together. So when you look at that thing that we were so enamored to, the emotion and the feeling of things, we're looking like, well, if the best way for us to get better is to just be with other people. This is going to kill racism. This is going to end everything. To be in love with this person. Let me go outside my race. Let me do this and that. Right? Like all these feelings in response to the pains and traumas that Black people feel, right, or have gone through, right? There's a response to that. I want to get away. It becomes escapism for a lot of people, and then they'll try to rationalize in their head. Well, I really do love this person. It's because I really do love them. Or did you force yourself into a situation to where you're being with them, and now you just created an experience, right?
You created an experience.
You created an experience that you can latch onto, and then maybe in your back of mind, you not told yourself, yeah, I really just love this person, right? But it's also in response to the traumas of being African. Right, and then it turns into any blackness.
They made it hard to be yourself.
And for a lot of African men, and I know this is actually not really a topic or the base of the topic we're looking to discuss today. But it all runs together, because again, it's talking about
relationship and relationship. Business is a relationship.
But you're looking at, especially when it comes to African men, you're gonna feel like this is where it's a response to how African women are responding to them. African women are too much, they're too strong, they're too aggressive, and that's falling in the line of what society, a westernized, a Eurocentric society has told you it's supposed to be. This is what femininity looks like. This is what a woman looks like. This is caressing. This is soft. This is and that. And there's soft. There's all these pieces as part of femininity, but there's also these other pieces too, right? And an African woman is embodiment of all of that. Right. The African woman is the woman, is God, right? The creator, every creator of all things. So that's all going to be in there. So if you're having a problem with that, you're going to just have to figure that shit out, right? or you're going to go somewhere else where you think this idea that's not your own was told to you is what you should be striving
And the
for.
power of suggestion.
Yes.
And implant theory.
Yes.
So all of those things that we're not aware of, how it's attacking us, how it's coming into our psyche. So this is when we have certain things coming into our psyche. We have to ask ourselves, where did the root cause of this stuff, this frame of reference? So when I say to the African, when I started my particular journey, I dumped everything. Like I dumped everything. There were only residues of certain things that lasted, and the things that lasted were philosophy. Because when I was in school, right, I learned from the Christian Bible, and because of the way that I learned the Christian Bible from my childhood, it's something that stuck with me and was written on me and in me for my whole entire life. So I needed to, because I realized I wasn't going to be able to get rid of that. And again, when you use violence, when you use fear and intimidation to drill something, the results are lasting. So this is why I say we as a community, as African people across the diaspora, we are in a learning curve. Right. Because we've learned the majority of the behaviors that we have, we learned under fear, under threat of violence.
And I was going to interject on that when you say that point of the implementation of fear and things like that, that makes the results lasting, but also those results the true results of what you're looking at, whatever the educational experience was supposed to be. If you take out the fear, if you take out the violence, if you take out those things,
right,
and the process of whatever your education was supposed to be around that, did you even get the true education? Because it's been riddled with all these traumatic experiences, right? Because it becomes distorted. Because now you think that you should be doing X because of one thing, but it's actually because you just want to get rid of the fear, the pain of whatever P was. Right. You know what I mean? So you know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
Like, you know, we have to really be, and staunch is the word of the day, because we have to really be that firm and staunch around wanting to make a change in that and wanting to transform your African experience, because there's so many pathways and pieces and obstacles and detours and falling debris and things that are getting in the way of you actually activating your full self.
We got one right here called Brainwashed by Tom Burrell. And this one's challenging the myth of Black inferiority. So this is another one that you really want to get a hold to. It's a really good, quick read. You know, you can chop through this. It's a very nice, very easy read. You want to get into that United Compensatory Code System by Neely Fuller. You want to get into the Heart of Soul, an Afrocentric approach to psycho-spiritual wholeness. When you start digging past those blocks, like I said, I got rid of everything. So all of this information, and this one as well, post-traumatic slave syndrome, America's legacy of enduring injury and healing.
That's a powerful read as well.
So you want to get into, this is just a couple that we wanted to drop in right quick for today, just to make sure that you actually, and then there's another one that I don't have on here right now called Centered from Baba Malemu Baruti, who's actually having a conference. He's going to be doing a 5-week course. So check in with akobinhouse.com for you to actually check in with that Akobin, check in with that course, course Centered. And see, so the reason being is you want to have your arsenal of what it takes for you to utilize your your left brain to reprogram the manipulation that has happened with your right brain.
Yes.
Because what they've done is African people are right brain dominant people, because we are balance-based, energy-based, spirit-based people, harmony-based, right? So you want to utilize your logical mind, your left brain logic, by giving it the information it needs to force, when it says, the Bible talks about temptation, to resist temptation. Resist temptation. It says to pluck out. If your eye offend you, pluck it out. To get rid of a member, to pluck out whatever it is that's not working for your greatest good, so that you get to heaven, so that you elevate your consciousness. Because if your eye offend you, it's keeping you in your lower functions. But if you cut out whatever that is that's keeping you in your lower functions, so you can elevate to your higher functions, but you got to get rid of those things to get to your higher functions. So I asked African people, how do we be in business with one another in a way that is going to be forwarding the Africans way forward to self-efficacy, because self-efficacy and our ability to know that we can take care of ourselves is damaged. Our knowing, and I did a research called locus of control, your internal or external locus of control. Your internal locus of control is even distorted because your right brain and left brain have been manipulated. But you can better control your left brain because left brain is activated with strategy, tactics, the right tool, technique, or method to answer the problem. So you fill your left brain with the tools it needs in order to reprogram your right brain so you can get out from underneath the manipulation and so that you can elevate into a place where you now have power over your own actions. We have a lot of things in our society that give us outs of having to take responsibility for our own behaviors, thoughts, and actions, and speak. It's a problem. How can you have self-efficacy if you're not willing to be responsible for your own behavior? If you feel like you can give your responsibility of your behavior when you jack up, when you sidestep to somebody or something else, how do you as a collective come to a place where you now know that when you're doing business with one another, you need to do business in ways that are forwarding the whole entire community? So anything you buy, so now you have to change the way you buy. I had a sister recently, they said online, they just made a post a little while ago where the brother was asking, can you be African and can we make African attire the daily norm as opposed to Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and all of these other European designers? That's what he said in the group that I'm in. And there's a lot of people, coming in there, black women specifically, saying, why can't we do both? You see what I'm saying? You see why you can't listen to folks? Because they don't have a clue. If you ask them, why can't we do both? The brother is talking about, why can't we make our heritage? Why can't we arrive in our full bloom, not just in African clothes, but in African vibration and attitude? Because I was showing up at work every day. And I had an entire team of black women mad at me just for showing up in African. Like anti-blackness showed up and it happened it happened like this. Like it was something like a switch just hit on and all of them was consumed by it. And they just started attacking me on a daily basis. And these are college, higher ed, masters in social work women who have been trained in the profession of being a helping professional in the behavioral and sociological sciences. They have the tools, yet they were unable to stop themselves from behaving in ways of malice toward another African. They had no control of their behaviors. None. And they could not connect with the fact that their behaviors were wrong. Could not connect with it. Made up every other excuse in the book. Somehow made me have to be the villain. When all I did was ask you not to do this thing that you shouldn't be doing anyway, but I shouldn't have to ask you or now you're wrong. We're in a professional environment. See, but this is what happens when we are now under manipulation of our internal code so that we're not even arriving to the types of solutions that can help us. So no, you cannot do both. You cannot. You have to take a position. You cannot fund your oppressor while you're trying to gain freedom. You cannot. How does that mathematically make sense to you?
Yo, that's fucked up.
How? These are the same corporations that don't want to pay taxes in your neighborhoods. These are the same companies that hire. The higher you get, the whiter you get. These are the same corporations that do not hire African people at their highest departments in their corporations. Yet, all of those lower rung positions are hired tips. Tips are paid hourly, and they provide them with no insurance. These are the same corporations because this is a back end stuff you don't know about. You wear these nice clothes and these nice bags and things like that. And when these European people, they hire their own people. They're not hiring you. Or they're hiring Asian designers or the tech team. They're not hiring your black ass. So why do you continue to fortify the places that you're trying to get freedom from? And you have somehow rationalized that this makes sense. You can't. And that goes across the board. You cannot. Now we go into the space where what are we as Africans producing? Because we're not producing enough of what we need. When we were in the Jim Crow South, African people spent all of their money with African people, every single dime. Because white folks did not want to do business with black people. Right after Reconstruction, white folks in the South and all over this place was mad at African people because they did not want to let their butts get free. They wanted to keep their butts on the farms. So they started convict leasing. They made vagrant laws and all kind of stuff to try to rack us back up in to keep us working for free. And for those of us that was able to build these communities all over America, we spent every dime that we made. First of all, we worked for each other or ourselves. And whatever goods and services we provided the full gamut of a living experience for ourselves. These folks came down and they exploit us. And now you have no power. And whatever asking that you're doing in business, the only viable tool you have today to get what you need is to opt out. That's the best strategic plan you have right now. Because you cannot fight the fight, fist fight, man-on-man combat with these folks. You cannot. Because the people that are making the decisions that will harm you are not man-on-man combat people. They stooges themselves, white folks. They stooges themselves. They don't even know they getting played. You didn't even know you was getting played. Do you know how deep they go in the rabbit hole? They all the way in Alice's Wonderland. They in a whole nother space, universe. They in their consciousness is in a way whole nother place. What I'm telling you right now, they could not contemplate of being literally biophysiologically manipulated now. Because now we're Now African people are biophysiologically being manipulated. We've already been behaviorally manipulated. But this little guy who's fighting this big guy doesn't even want to give up with just knowing that you are psychologically at war with your own. War in high places, you are psychologically warring with yourself and your mind. They don't want to take the chance that you might slip in and be on the side of Nat Turner or flip and be on the side of Malcolm X. They want to biophysiologically manipulate you at this point to ensure that you never get into your right mind. So no, you can't do both. You need to change. You're going to need to change what your value systems are, what you want. We in relationship with each other. Brother, sister said, I ain't no steak. She's on line tomorrow. She ain't steak. She not gonna she gotta wear all of these colognes and all of these perfumes and stuff. She don't do that because she don't stink. She don't want to be out here in the world stinking. So she's talking about she gotta be. Now this is not the same thread. This is a different thread.
She wears them so she won't stink, or she says she doesn't think she doesn't need them. She's not gonna not wear her colognes and her perfumes. So she wears the cologne.
The rumor is that African people stink. We stink. Those people made up rumors about us being ignorant and dumb. We even treat ourselves like we're still ignorant and dumb. We don't respect each other's gifts and talents and skills and education. No. We don't. Not unless you get the cracker stamp of approval. And you get the handoff. That's the only time we respect each other. Other than that, we discount each other. You can't learn something from an ex-convict formerly incarcerated. Because they're dumb, they're ignorant. They're following the stats. This is what they're telling you. So, along with those narratives, is stinking African people, dirty, shiftless, thieves. Like, these are all of the narratives that came out of white-centered consciousness. That's the way we interact with each other in daily social environment, not to mention in business.
Meanwhile, you're wearing all them chemicals out here, killing us softly.
Largest gland.
Largest gland is your skin. You think you ain't out here destroying that slowly with them chemicals and everything? Like, for us, like, I haven't wearing cologne or those outward chemicals in a very long time. So when I smell it now, it literally smells like chemicals. It smells like you doused yourself in like alcohol of different flavors. That's what it smells like, and it's gross. And it's like when because people are, a lot of us are obsessed with that particular mindset of I'm not gonna stink, I'm not gonna do this, I'm gonna like fucking bathe myself in acid 20 times a day, as long as it means I'm smelling good. But you overdo it, and you're actually poisoning your skin, and you poison other people's noses, like mine. And I don't appreciate it in tight elevators. If you have allergies, it's the worst. It's actually really bad. It is intrusive. A lot of them are not smelling good anymore. It just all smells like chemicals.
Well,
but the idea,
it doesn't smell good, period.
Right? It doesn't smell good, period. But but we have to know where these things come from. where these ideals coming from. Like I said, I went from very minimum colognes. Usually, if I had one cologne, I had one cologne, that was it. And I would spritz, done. Right. Then I moved to oils as I got older in my mid 20s, and close to early 30s, and I stopped completely. Right. And I haven't worn them since. It doesn't even faze me that it's not there. You're either going to deal with just my nothingness or my essence of whatever it is that you're getting that day. But it's breaking the ideas and the framework of what the Matrix is telling you to be, right? And what the Matrix is telling you to do. When in actuality, a lot of it is if you really look at it, it's projection.
It is definitely projection, but it's also projection. It's an implantation of implanted thought, and it's a nervous tick, and it caused something that made us insecure. And now that we have this insecurity, you need to see these folks. You need to know what a federally traded corporation is. African people, you play it in the Matrix. I tell you, there's a maintenance conversation and then there's a long-term conversation. So if you make this conversation in the Matrix, then you need to play the Matrix's game. And the Matrix's game says you need to monopolize an industry. Now, African people did not monopolize sports or entertainment because you don't get the biggest bang or residuals from it. For instance, Asian people that don't generally wear weaves, don't generally do their own nails, have monopolized these industries. East Indians have monopolized the eyelashes and the eyebrows industry. And what they're doing is they corner these markets in your community, by and large, and they're using something in economics called the long tail theory. So they thread eyebrows all day and night for $6. And they just keep that door swinging in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. $6. Okay, so let's say $5. $5. If you get 20,000 people to give you $5, that's $100,000. Basic math. And they just keep those doors open. And they have those chairs there 365 days a week. And they open for 7 hours. And the women go in there and do the eyebrows.
And what are you willing to give up to have the life that you want, that you say you want for yourself?
But no, these women open up nail salons. They open up nail salons and beauty salons and all these things, but then their stuff always costs too much. Always. They always overprice under the guise of creating an experience. So we try to mix the concept of creating an experience and creating this. It's always about royalty all the time. So like when they do these spas and these nail places and these, eyebrow places, always about creating an experience, which I get. But it also means that we need therapy in other areas, and we need to take our business and put that in a different area. Right? Because if you created a vehicle that's going to create income, see, if we ran the sports industry, we would have all that collateral from the sports. We would have all that entertainment collateral, and we would be able to build entire cities all over this country that educate our children. You don't want to give us critical race theory? That's fine. We're going to train our children when we want to train our children. It is very important for the strength of the Matrix that these individuals who are in these entertainment places that are dominated is the largest place where most African people are. If it's not entertainment, sports, it's the military. So those are the places where you end up being herded into, and none of which do you run. You're not in the driver's seat for none of these spaces. So where are the places and spaces that African people run, own, and dominate? Dr. Claude Anderson says African people don't run, own, and operate anything. We might run it, we might operate it, but we don't own it. And then we have things like,
Or we compromise ownership.
Or we compromise
co-owner is someone that's not.
Well, Puffy was co-owner with Arista Records with Bad Boy for 3 years. And then he closed that gap, paid them whatever, and sent them trucking. Right? So, Michael Jackson got his masters. He bought the Beatles masters.
Eminem's masters for a while.
And Eminem's masters for acting like he was smart, and he got to get a spanking from the elders because he being disrespectful, which I totally agree with that whole presentation right there. But this is maintenance in the Matrix. It's making power moves that support your greatest good and way forward in the Matrix. But unfortunately, guess what happened with Michael Jackson's wealth? It all went back to the system.
It all did.
All of it. I think his mom got a little bit of something.
And they slowly trying to work the same thing with Prince.
And Prince, all that work that he did, and these people thread you into. So this is why I'm asking African people, with all the gain that you can get, what are you creating the scripts of the way forward for African people?
And how are you protecting? How are you protecting it?
Self-efficacy. No. You can't write rules in the matrix that these folks made to fortify themselves. It is not possible. This is why I said to you, African, is either fortify yourself, find the proper technique, method, or mechanism that creates the greatest benefit for you and way forward into self-efficacy and sovereignty for the African. You cannot do it in somebody else's house. How you gonna come in my house and out-slick me when I made the rules? So I don't understand people who's talking this talk. Maintenance is one conversation, and a way forward is another conversation. So because I cannot feed you today, I'm not going to tell you to quit your job working for the white man. I can't do it because I cannot provide you with room and board and food and clothing shelter for your children. But I can offer you support to help you build up the type of efficacy where you could make a decision where you release the fear and you move on and do what's best for you and your family. Or you train your younger generation on how to maintain continuity. These folks have been running this racket since right before slavery began in 1619. This racket did not just start in America. It began 150 years prior to slavery hitting these lands. This racket started. So nobody is living 150 years. So how do they manage to maintain continuity with this racket? And it's still going on in 2021 from 150 years prior to 1619. How? Why can we not keep wealth in our family for 2 generations? Why do our children slip out because we are not teaching our children about the power of suggestion? We're not teaching our children that not allow the system to tempt them into emotional manipulation. Because we're not fortifying our children, one, and telling them the truth about their social condition. Because you were too cowardly to find a way forward that was guided by the best steps for African sovereignty, not to create a better
we honor the divine essence and all forces of good from within the universe.
95% of us as African people tell our children to find a better seat in a master's house. To do these basic things that doesn't give them any identity in their African center and give them the responsibility for being the difference that is different. You do not teach them that it is their responsibility to take care of their community. I met Africans from the continent in this country right here, and they tell me that while they working here, I don't care what you're doing here, you have to send money home to family, especially if you're an eldest son. It is your duty. It is your expectation from birth as the eldest child. I don't care what you're doing in America. I know brothers that was here in America making this $2 while driving taxi cab, sleeping in a room with 9 other people because it is their responsibility to take care of mom and siblings and his brother's wife. And his brother's wife is having a baby. So he's not here creating luxuries for himself because it doesn't really matter. Because I'm not caught up in the sparkling and the shiny object syndrome. Like, I don't want none of this debacle and debauchery that y'all got going on here. Whatever, just give me the money. Because I'm here with a maintenancing conversation. I'm in this country for maintenance. You guys messed up this economic system. You guys devalued the resources and currency in my country. Created social unrest in my country. Gave weapons to individuals in my country and caused them to create all these various situations. Destabilizing all the many things that this little guy right here would do to this big guy right here, whatever it takes. So now I'm here in America, coming for them $2, and I'm maintenance in my life. So as far as your concerns here, what is your take on it?
That's what I was alluding to earlier with the whole idea, like, what are you willing to give up? to get what you need. Right? Because we're not conditioned in the space to do whatever it takes to step into our Africanness and step into our village, step into owning who we are, and in these spaces and strengthening our community. A lot of us aren't ready to do those great leaps. It looks different. It's been shaped different from both sides of the what you want to call it, both sides of the mirror, so to speak.
Right.
Both sides of the spectrum. Right. They're like the continental Africans and those outside have a different perspective of how these resources are to be utilized. Whereas we've been conditioned to a certain perspective to not even utilize them at all or in the proper way that actually fortifies us.
Right.
Because they've already grown up in a certain grown up in a certain type of conditioning mindset around whatever their values are, whatever their family values are, is different. Right. And the content is just much, much different than how it's upheld here. Right. Because we're here. They're over there, like, despite, they still deal with the effects of colonialism, neocolonialism, and the corruption and things of that nature that are there. That's there. That's clear. But there's also, at the end of the day, there's still foundations of African culture, spirituality, and essence, and family, and values that are there that cannot be taken away.
That's right.
Right. Whereas we, as people who were brought to this land, enslaved people brought to this land, and then made to do the work, forget everything that they've been and their tongue and all of the pieces of who they were beforehand, and then the kids born into this space not knowing who they are, and the kids not knowing who they are, and then being thrust out into the world after this enslaved life, 250 something years of enslaved life, and just thrown out into this land that you didn't own, right, to just figure it out. And then you talking about now we're living 150 plus years of just figuring it out, and move and rolling with the punches and moving with whatever comes our way. We had the time of building self-efficacy with our Black Wall Streets, with Tulsa, with Greenwood, with all these spaces where we were looking to thrive, and then that was attacked. And then you have this. Then you're going into like trying,
but there's fear. There's a fear attached to the trauma.
Yeah.
That's a whip, but I'm telling you about learning under the guise of intimidation and pain,
and that was exactly to my point. Right. Is that within that skews that education, right? Of how do I get to my next level? Now that this fear has been instilled, my idea of the next level has been skewed, and my pathway to the next level has been skewed. So now it's like I just want to survive, or I just want to thrive, I want to be successful. Right, and with just to live and say I left this earth with something, but it's something that wasn't even of your own making, something that wasn't even of your own doing, something that even doesn't even fortify you as part of an actual bigger village and bigger conversation of a culture that other people of other cultures have, right? Whether it's Asian, whether it's Latino, like whether it's all those other cultures, East Indian, they have that. They have some attachment to that, and it's a very real ideal that they hold on to, especially when it comes to when you're talking about taking a mate, marriages, all those things. There's a cultural respect that's there, and a process that is going through when you're talking about union of two people, and then union of family, and then union of villages. All that plays a factor in these other people's cultures, where we have that in Africa, in certain countries, most countries. Right, so to speak. But even there, like if you're looking coming into these generations, they're adapting to what they think is cool from over here, the younger folks, right? Because there's still those pieces there, but the values are still there, so to speak. It's still based in something that's valued in African, right? Where we have nothing, everything we have of a structure, of family structure going up into each generation is based in some hodgepodge idea of what it means to be Black.
Somebody created
African,
it.
That someone created
or put on this costume that's Black.
That's told us what that is, and we're operating within that, and what we can kind of cipher and synthesize from that. So we're not even really grasping the impact that a lot of what even most of us are owning, which is why we still do the code switching and the white boys and I'm gonna bring my friend along to this Black folks meeting and all this type of stuff.
God, because
we don't have a framework here of how to operate in African, because there's no value system here that was made to operate in Africa. There's no foundation in that. Only foundation we have is whatever the Matrix was providing.
They attack everything
and
in our creation of Africanness.
You just know that you're different. Right, that's it. You know you're different. There's something. Let me find something. And even in those books They give you a little piecemeal of what that looks like, but not enough to have you be in identification of it. It's just so you can understand. Okay, well, I'm black, So, and this is what they say black people have done. There's some cool stuff. Also, black people have done these bad things. So I gotta find out: do I want to keep with the bad stuff, or do I want to try to do the cool stuff and do it more, or whatever?
Right.
So you're operating all, and then that becomes the idea of I'm gonna go to the school, I'm gonna go to Harvard, I'm gonna go to Duke, I'm gonna go to all these other these
Yale,
Ivy League, Yale, Princeton, Ivy League schools. I'm gonna get these educations of that still have skewed my African identity and my history.
But what are these schools though?
And I'll adopt this stuff and not have any understanding of it.
What are those schools?
PWIs, predominantly white institutes.
Those schools were,
and tools.
as I said, if African people dominated and owned and operated and ran the entertainment and sports industry, we would create our own schools. We would build a Malcolm X University of Higher Learning. Or we would build a Dr. Betty Shabazz School of Alchemy. We would build a school of Dr. Francis West Welsing School of Biopsychosocial Behavioral Conduct or Institute or what have you. We would build these schools. And you know what those schools would teach? It would teach our narrative. So what's happening at Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Oxford, Dartmouth, Brown, and all that, those are funded by other individuals who are at that round table, and it teaches their children, and if you want to gain entry, you're going to do it their way because their rules, their house, their rules.
Their framework.
And they're going to hollow you out away from Africanness as much as humanly possible because those schools and those educational systems are fortifying white-centered consciousness.
Right.
So you can't fortify white-centered consciousness and African-centered consciousness at the same time. Right. So you're going to lose one. And even some of us who come out of those spaces and believe that we really, unless we went in, because I'm telling you, it's so diabolical and it's so seductive. It's so, you can't even see it at the tip of your finger. You can't even see it without a microscope. How beguiling and deceptive that implanted seed is within your spiritual consciousness, in your subconsciousness, that it arrives behaviors that you're not even aware of. You don't even pay attention to them because they're just normal responses for you. But I'm telling you, the manipulation and how subtle it is, you cannot see it without a microscope. That's how undetectable it is.
Right.
So when you come out of that space, because they have those scientists, and they've been working with those scientists about this behavioral conditioning, and they have heard of these people. Sister Melly Queen said people are afraid. Afraid of what? How good are you doing that if you handled your business? Because remember, your Christian Bible says, he who loves his life will lose it. So if only thing they can do is take your body. I forgot who said this. So they can take the body, but they can't take the mind. I forgot who said this. Think about it.
There's renditions of different ways.
Like what are you actually losing? Because what are you gaining? Every day, and this is things that, like, you can't even have these conversations with people who have the white culture experience because they just not here for it. They're just not able to process it. That they wake up every day, and what fortifies white-centered consciousness spaces also tears down African-centered consciousness spaces on a daily basis. Right. At least people who are having a white culture experience, they can opt the fuck out when they feel like it. They don't feel like talking that black shit. They can just be like, you know what? Go close the window, close for business, and that's that.
And we're so lost in the sauce that we don't think that everything is based in racism. Yes, it is. Oh, it's not always race all the time. Yes, it is. As long as you're involved, yes, it is. Because you want to think in a framework, especially when it comes to the U.S. history. This country was the country as we know it now was founded on chattel slavery, racism, genocide, destruction of a people,
sexual
whether it was
violence,
right? That's heinous. That's heinous to the umpteenth degree. A grotesque act against humanity, crimes against humanity, being humane. You don't think that there's going to be, now you're out here free to roam around. You don't think that there's going to be a constant state of we need to find ways to calm them down or quell whatever types of strategies they have back, because they're going to gun for us for all the shit that we did.
Right now.
All the shit that we did. So we need to create ways for them to be cool is the short end of the conversation. So that means we need to either recondition their minds out here by like selling the wolf tickets of if they go to this school they're gonna get a better education. If they go here, or all of us aren't all white people aren't bad, or like we can chill out here, or you can go to our shops and you can do the things that we're doing as the people who've helped make this nation right off your backs and blood. You can do these things with us. It's cool. Everything's all right. You can shop at our stores. It's okay now. You're good. And that familiarity, that relationship piece, once again, is activated, so you can forget the fact that you were beaten into submission for 256 years straight, and they just shifted what the beating was. It wasn't physical. It wasn't as physical now. Now it's mental, right? Before it was physical and mental and all emotional. Now it's just it's more so been mental and emotional, so to speak, because you're still dealing with the residuals of coming off that. And then they now science has proven that trauma is genetic. So it's epigenetic.
Epigenetic trauma.
So that means there's trauma flowing through your DNA from past experiences and past lives of your ancestors that have already dealt with it. So now you're dealing with that, and you're dealing with your current based traumas that are psychological, which means it's even worse.
Who's not going to deal with that, though? Because guess who's not going to, in this society, who's not going to pay for damages? Nobody's going to pay for damages. Because the people who would have to pay for damages, paying for your damages would make this little guy even smaller. There's not even a cost that can be paid for the damage that has been done to African people. This entire planet, just about all people on this planet that are non-African people have had an opportunity to exploit and harm African people. They've had their serving. So who's going to advocate African people getting risen up to handle their business? The only people that's going to empower African people are African people.
Period.
That's it. We ain't got no friends. Dr. John Henry Clark said, African has no friends. People are only situational. So while we keep trading on each other and using each other and manipulating and undervaluing Africanness and African, that only hurts us ourselves. Because them folks don't care. You can all you doing is you are an asset to the matrix to harm your brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So if African lives truly do matter, Black lives matter. Because nobody is black, because African, you came from somewhere. And as long as you're still African American or African or black, there's an issue with your identity, which means there's an issue with your nationality, where you came from, who the people that represent you, where you connected to, what is your lineage, what is your line of defense. I'm African. My line of defense is in Africa. My people are in Africa. I don't care that I've been out here in the wilderness, prodigal son, got to come home. So what?
Yeah.
So what? Because that wasn't my fault. I'm taking my place, and you ain't got to like it. Make some room. I'm coming through.
Back up. Make
some room. Like, excuse me. That's my seat right there. Thanks. We'll work it out. I will work it out. We will work it out. You feel me? See, because that's the unifying conversation. They've turned everything about Africa right now. They're now manipulating us, and everything is about tourism. Everyone is vacationing, which is fine on the ground level, but that doesn't have enough impact to create structural change. A few businesses, a few villages, a few communities might make a couple dollars, but what we need is structural change in the way we think. China picked themselves up out of where they was 50 years ago. People who are having a Jewish experience, Jewish people, Europeans who are Jewish by ethnicity, pick themselves up out of their circumstance, their hurdle back in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, and now they're up where they are now, and they're putting themselves in a situation of leverage. How do they do this? How are all of these people able to create the leverage? Mind you, nobody has suffered the licks that Africans have, because we leverage ourselves. These folks keep knocking our licks back, and they run in our space, they disrupt our space. But we should keep that same energy, though. We should literally be moving like water. We should be like water. We should be agile. Water moves. It is harmonious, but it also can do a lot of damage. Mm-hmm. So Africans, we should be moving like a school of fish. We should be moving like water. We shouldn't allow ourselves to get stunted in our right brain frequency because these folks knocked us down. Like I said, this racket that these folks are running started 150 years before they got to America. That's a lesson for us. For all of us out here popping it and twerking it and talking about what we own and I'm supposed to have my fun. I'm going to be able to do my thing. I'm going to feel good. And all that foolishness that we are talking about our one little 2-cent life. And you're not laying no bricks for nobody. And you're going to leave your children behind in the same muck you came into. Or I'm going to leave them a house and a couple of dollars on an insurance policy. But so what? Because they're irresponsible. They're going to burn it up just like that. Now what? Now they're raising their grandkids in the same muck you came in. See, we didn't keep any continuity. This is the issue. This is the issue. And we have to get in front of these deceptive tactics that you cannot detect without a microscope that these folks is manipulating our people with. So Africans, we got to change the way we do business. We first have to change our value systems and what's important and what we choose to pay for. Because our people, we choose to value stuff above ourselves, and we don't value our own community. A lot of us are doing a lot of things out here, and a lot of us don't thrive in our businesses because we don't support each other. And I can't even tell you how many times folks keep trying to get my services for free. I don't work for free. I have to stop having conversations because why have a conversation? This is my means of giving back. This is the framework that we've created where if you need coaching or you're trying to get a few dollars, so hit something, this is where you're going to get it at. If you're not booking an appointment, you're not getting it from me no other way. I'm not available. Relationships as adults today in this world that we live in, unfortunately, because of the circumstances, because our people are suffering from such grave degrees of trauma, and we are undetected how damaging we are to one another. Mm-hmm. We only have relationships that are of mutual benefit. Up to the door, up front, from day one. We're not going to have any manipulation and any type of moving down the line. Let's figure it out. No, because we're not going to figure it out. It's not going to happen organically. You're an adult. Make a contract. Period. Say your piece. Say what you mean and mean what you say. And hold on to that. Like the very fabric of the fact that we refuse to be accountable on basic small levels is an indicator of our lack of maturity as a community. Because I speak to people who are from other countries. I got a sister from another country right now. We've been down for less than a year. She said, "Oh, I love me some Nephara. I just love me some Nephara because she don't have to think about me. I'm not the person." She's met many people on her journey. She's been here only a short amount of time in her journey here in America, and she's met me. I'm the one person that she knows she can have a conversation, straight talking conversation. Yep. No hidden areas. No hidden fees, no trap doors, no slide of hand, no 3-card Monty, just straight.
No back-end subscription.
No back-end subscription, none of that. None. Just upfront, authentic, and honest and balanced.
Right. Period.
And I don't have that. Other than my husband and her, they're the only people in my life that I can absolutely depend on that factor all the time. So because it's added stress, everybody's having mental health breakdowns these days, it's added stress constantly having to feel that there's distrust in our community. That was embedded. The sword of dissension and what is called jealousy, distrust that's built into our community. Field slave, your house slave, right? The built-in, like the brother was talking about, the built-in layer of half the master's children and half slave children. How you gonna raise them when they've been raised in the house and they be eating from silverware? Y'all been out there eating out of cassava. You all been out there in the field eating with your fingers. Have never taken a shower other than the one you can dip yourself in the river and walk around with them same clothes until they dry in the sun. They in the house taking baths in the bathtub with the basin with hot water bottles. They get to sleep in the bed, in a cushioned bed. Y'all out there sleeping on the cold ground in the shed on a bale of hay. You think they giving up their conveniences to tell you the truth? I'm just saying.
Right. We didn't think about those things.
I'm just saying. We're not contemplating that. These folks living good, eating good, living good on the high on the hog, under their allegiance to the master, under making sure that we maintain more of the same. Because we actually maintain more of the same.
Right.
And there is a punishment factor for those that step out of line with. But then we all keep talking about how we want African this and we want African that. Now y'all don't want African nothing, so stop trying.
Yeah, there's actions
Stop
behind
lying.
it.
Stop telling yourself
There's tangibles that need to take place behind those things. You can't just want something and then
It's not
just
a wish.
hope the African Santa is gonna come and give it to you.
No.
Like, wrong. You gotta put in the work for it. If you want it, then be African and do the work. Whether it's do your research and do the work to apply it and put it out in the world, seek out those that you know already doing it, where that information is, and mount up with them and figure it out. But it's not just going to happen out of nowhere in thin air. And that's how a lot of us are operating in that. And we need to put that away. We actually need to put that away. That's the prayers and the hopes and the faiths and things like that. You can be faithful. You can move in that faith, but you can also put some action behind it. I got faith all the time.
I got faith that I can handle my business.
Exactly. And I had that faith is also built on the foundation of experiences, of actions, of doing certain things. I had to do work.
I know I can achieve.
Nephra had to do work.
Yes, sir.
And that's why we're here sharing from the basis of the foundation of the work that we've done and the experiences that we've had. So this is if you're not coming off of any foundation of the true experiences that can support people, then you have work to do. And you can't sit and try to sell anybody anything else until you've done the work. And that work includes how we operate with each other as Africans, right? How we band together, how do we mount together, how do we organize, how do we share information, how do we move without an intention of something else or ulterior motive or trying to get something, doing things to get something out of someone versus doing things because it's Ubuntu and the right thing to do. I am because we are. I'm not free till everyone is free. Period. There is no I won when your man's is suffering, right? When it's someone else is suffering, right? If you're not the example or being support, and people refuse support, we get that. But that doesn't mean wavering who you are and doing the walk that you get to do that can touch others. Because it may not be, maybe you're not that particular person in that time, but you can infuse the space for it to do what it needs to do over time, and that person will be ready. What's the saying? When the student is ready, the master will show up. It takes work. We got to be willing to do the work, and a lot of us aren't willing to do the work. We're willing to skip the steps. We're willing to read the cliff notes. The cliff notes ain't going to help you pass this test.
We shadow copy somebody else. Shadow copy. We willing to, siphon off.
Right.
We got to remember that the way the Matrix was built is, African people is something about spirituality that we've turned into superstition.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
but something
voodoo,
about
it's evil.
spirituality about African people is we know about energy. Sister said something earlier this week about a wounded healer. No, ma'am. We can't have no energy of a wounded nobody touching the body, do nothing. Don't touch me. I don't want no wounded anything. Because that is another deception. Like I said, you can't see it without a microscope. Mm-hmm. All of these deceptive buzzword manipulation things that make gray area for you to find yourself somewhere comfortable to be inside of dysfunction, right? You need to clear your situation up before you start putting your hands on anybody. Because I know people who are out here and they're wounded, whatever they're doing. And if I look at 15 people that person has touched, they all got the same dysfunction as that one who led them. Mm-hmm. Because they're moving
one form
energy.
Another, yeah.
Because energy is moving.
And then imagine that compounded to whatever other experiences they have from other similar, quote unquote, wounded folks.
I only happen to see it. I only happen to read the metrics.
What are you working with?
You got a wounded whatever, but now you out here touching 25, 30, 400 people, and they all manipulating the body. They're all under the same trans and frequency of energy. And it continues to manipulate. And this is the reason I've spoken about, because I tell you guys I use myself as an example because my God is no respecter of person. Anything that you think I can do or I have done, you can also do and do it better. I hope you do. Because we need more fortification out here on the ground, period. Done. It's all good. Right? But know that I came out of the whole beast of the whole experience. And I'm clear that you don't get to put your hands on me and manipulate with that energy, because a person can only encourage you past where they are at, what their prism is. And if they can't see the highest possibility for an African as a possibility for an African, they cannot usher you towards the highest possibility for an African, for African people. They can't do it. because they themselves cannot see it. They are held by their own, whatever their deficit is. So don't wound enough and touching me. You can tell me a story that maybe I can get some benefit from something that you got benefit from. Thank you. But you can't put your energy on nobody and be out here talking about you healing nobody.
I can't.
Stop carrying that title. That's not considered. You told a story. Tell a story and keep it moving. It's important that we tell these stories. But know that, yes, we are all in a healing curve to a great degree because of our collective experiences. But there's something about energy that moves that we as African people have not acknowledged the energy that we move among each other because we're not engaging in our spiritual frequency. This whole thing is masked in another mechanism. And it lacks its potential. It lacks. This other thing that you have your energy sitting in is suppressing its possibility. So this is why I encourage African people. They get away from me because I'm here for accountability. Most folks can't hold my energy, so they have to get away from me. They don't have a choice. They're not going to take the energy that I'm giving. See, that woman over there who's in her wounded healing is keep duplicating that energy. All these 20 women all still walking away with their bitter freaky deaky, whatever they got going on. That's supposed to be female liberation and all of that stuff. And still feeling broken and not present in their femininity. Still don't really have that feminine charge that they're looking for. Because that same deficit that woman had that you're trying to achieve, she don't have to give you.
Mm-hmm.
She don't have to give you, so she can't. And I'm not saying that to say that it's not a part of it, because I say don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Take that piece of information and you keep learning, but know that what's not there is not there. Like I said, when I started taking therapy, I knew what I didn't have, and I knew what I wanted. So when people come up around me and I'm here with this frequency, they know they can't hold it because they haven't developed self-efficacy yet. So they got to get away from me. Maybe they come back. They take off, they siphon off a little piece of something and they go run with it. And that's enough for them because I think they're 30% is they're 100%, like whatever. We as African people, what we really need is accountability for each other. We need Ubuntu in our community, and we need to know that it is your responsibility to fix African people. Yes. No wishing. There's no wishing well that's going to fix African people. There is no hero that is coming to save African people. You are going to save African people. Save yourself first. Put your mask on first. There is no savior coming for African people. You gonna fix you. You gonna fix us. Get to work. And you know, it's a trade-off. Yeah, what are they willing to give? Mm-hmm. What are you willing to give up to get where you want to go? Do African people even have a vision of what's possible for our community, for our people? Do we even realize that this what we're living in right now is so dysfunctional that it's not even funny? Somebody said this was amazing. Somebody said this was grand. Mm-hmm. This is madness and it's killing the planet. How about that, folks? It's madness. It's sickening. It's dysfunctional and it's killing the planet, and it is making human beings become less and less human every day.
That's like the post I shared the other day. Is somebody was talking about, the comments talking about, man, you know, being black in America is violent and dangerous, but I wouldn't trade it for nothing. And I was like, this is stuff we saying out here? Like, you wouldn't trade it for being black in America and not having to deal with violence and danger because you're being black in America? Like, you ever think about that part? Maybe like how about you can actually be black without the fucking trauma, right? How about you create a system in a world where that exists? How about you being an agent of that particular type of change? How about you actually transform the space of starting where you are, if that's something that you want to be different, versus keeping up the status quo, keeping up more of the same that you're dealing with. Because actually the trauma doesn't have to be the African experience, right? It doesn't have to mean I'm black, I'm African because I went through this particular piece. No, I'm black and African because I am, period.
But why though? But why is that a thing? Why do we feel
because that's what we've been born into. That goes back to that same conversation.
And violence.
When we're born into generations now, and it's like the game of telephone. The more people that's added onto it, and the story narrative shifts, and they're only going to go based off what they thought they heard, right? And so a lot of these newer generations of people, I'm talking about newer generations, like within the past 100 years or so, are going off of what they may have heard and then doing whatever they can with that. And they're building these conditions up to like, okay, well, I guess this must be what part of being Black in America is this violence and pain and trauma. No, that's part of what has shaped this, but that's what it actually has to be to identify as an African, to identify as Black America, whatever you want to call it, African first.
But what do we have to do, though? We have to change the way our people behave and interact with each other. And because there are forces that undermine every progress you make, no. Legit. There are literally forces that undermine any progress that African people make. Literally. Second of all, there is a seed that you cannot see without a microscope that is inside of your subconscious mind that undermines African people's efficacy issues, abilities in our own community. In our own community, we have things inside of us that causes us to be self-sabotaging. Remember, we have leaders in our community that love on the people, to serve the people, that will really take the people far. What we do? We kill them. We trade on our people. We inform on our people to COINTELPRO. That's what we do. That's what we do, is self-sabotaging out of madness. That's what we did. That's what we doing. There's people at the top of organizations all over the place who are self-sabotaging efforts of sovereignty for African people right now. That's what we're doing. That's the thing that's in our subconscious mind that you cannot see without a microscope. But it lives and it breathes and it has teeth. I'm just saying, African. So this is why when I say to you, the best thing to do is to walk through there and get rid of everything. Like everything. Right. And if you see something, kick it out quick. Get rid of everything.
You have to start from a clean slate.
Like you have to start from, because you cannot find it without starting from a clean slate.
Right.
You walk into a house and there's no furniture in there, you know that house is empty. So every piece of furniture you put in there, you know what you put in there.
Exactly.
So if you walk in your house and you find an island kitchen in your kitchen, and you know you didn't put it there, you know somebody put that in there. You're gonna put that out. Or you're gonna go find who put this in here, because I didn't bring this fan in this house. I didn't put this island in this kitchen. How did this get here?
Right.
See, that's the only way for you to know that what you put in there was fortifying.
Right.
And then you don't know what's fortifying. Remember something, know when you go in that you don't know what's fortifying, because you've never had an opportunity to see what's fortifying. So you then need to do your research and get the research with the purity of study, because when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. By virtue of the energy of creation within your spiritual center, the codes within you that you are unaware of will seek out and create the manifestations that you need to fortify your perception, to bring in the tools that you need to fill your house. Because at this moment, from where you came into the world 5 minutes ago, 19, whatever, 8, 13, so, whatever year you just got here, you don't have the fortification and knowledge to make the right decisions, to put what needs to be in their house. And for those of us who still trying to grapple with this old raggedy ass furniture in their house, put it out. Start from scratch. You gotta have nerve to do that, though. You can't be scared. Can't be in fear.
Yep.
You got to be wide awake. You got to be present. And you got to be willing to put all that junk out and start over. And it's a learning curve. It's a learning, studying, and application and cataloging curve that you have to be in consistently while keeping your head on swivel. While consistently being at a constant state of suspicious awareness. While being ready already on a very just base level, while all of that other work is still happening, and you still got to get up properly and go to work, tend to children, family, and be obligated to whatever your obligations are. So all this is happening constantly. So know this. So when folks show up and they be knocking, and they think that, because we make it look so easy, like we ain't busy, we are constantly at work. It don't stop. No, we make it look like a song. Oh, yes. I know that. But there's a place to get to in a journey of applying the information so that you arrive at a place where it looks like harmony, a peace that surpasses understanding. Because once you know the trajectory you're moving in and what your purpose and your drive is, it then looks like a song because now you're on a movement trajectory as opposed to grappling in terror and constantly in nervous, fidgety energy. You're moving with, and you're laying the direction, you're moving in that direction. And you live it daily. And you're out of fear. You don't have to live in fear and terror and it's not there. You just create. You stay in your creation energy. But see, it's a journey to get there. And if you're still lying to yourself, if you still have all of these barriers to your growth, your spiritual frequency can't well up. And you're going to have insecurity that's going to constantly be on your ass. Compare, jealousy,
disrupt your progress.
Envy, making gray areas for yourself to do foolishness, still falling behind in your lower frequency vibrational energy. When those things keep happening, that is you warring with yourself. That's you doing that. You can choose out of it though. Like you can literally choose out of being all in that space. And since we live in a matrix that makes room for all of that confusion, we live in a universal energy right now, in a space right now of the conductors in this space who make room for this confusion and who said it's okay. And then you have slews and groups and large amounts of people that are going to support you in your few foolishness and confusion. And they're going to say all kind of stupidness to you. They're going to give you all kind of cliches and all kind of little fly lines and buzzwords and all of that foolishness. So when you don't get to the place where it looks like a song, where you've reached a place that surpasses understanding, where harmony comes into the space, where even in all of the madness, you still look like peace, it doesn't occur. Because all of these things are disrupting your space. I'm just letting you know. So somebody could have told you that this is the space. So you don't have to say you never heard of it, you didn't know. So you now know what is keeping all the madness. And also your own personal hang-ups and snitches and snags and things that you enjoy. Like, because some people enjoy being petty.
Oh, God.
You're going to have an issue getting to your spiritual elevation space if you love being petty.
I'm so sick of that.
If you love drama, if you love, all of the drama stuff, right? Political drama, TV drama, video drama, pop culture drama.
To the train
if you love it, if you enjoy it, if you enjoy seeing people get hurt, that is a big one. Because there's an issue with your love for humanity and the fact that you like to see people getting hurt. That's sadistic. That's a big one that keeps you away from Ubuntu. I want you to know the manifestation of what it looks like. I don't want you to fool yourself and say, oh, because they put Big Brother's house on TV, because they let you see Jerry Springer and Geraldo on TV, of our people being coons and clowns and making fools of themselves. Right? Look at it come. Right? Because they give us this stuff and you say, oh, it's okay because it's socially okay. And they got world stars showing all these black folks pulling each other hands out and fight. If you enjoy that stuff, that's a spiritual tune. That's a surefire to keep you from where you're trying to get to.
Oh, most definitely.
I'm here to tell you.
Yeah.
So you can deal with that. You can deal with that. Don't take it to the cross because it ain't doing nothing there but sitting there festering in the back of your mind right now. Keeping you from where you need to get to. Take it off the cross, take it in your house, and figure your business out. Wrangle with whatever you got to wrangle with and get that out of there if you don't want it. If you're trying to get to somewhere, work that thing out.
Yeah, it's just going to be imposition.
I'm just saying. That's a big one that a lot of people get hung up on. Bondage breaker, that's me. I break bonds, right? Bondage breaker. Get rid of chains. If you're trying to get to your ascension place of elevation, where we are in the way forward for African sovereignty, and it always starts with the one. So the work you do on yourself is going to impact the space, because I've told you about the manipulation in the frequency of energy. The way the matrix is getting us by the deceptive seed that cannot be detected without a microscope. It is you. If you continue to manifest this inside of people, you're the source. So you want to create the source that is nurturing, healing, fortifying, uplifting in African frequency and spiritual essential energy, and ascending. And that is not a fight. There's no physical exertion involved in that. And that, just like that, it's a choice. And African people move in the way they need to move. And what needs to happen, needs to happen. But you know what? I ain't doing that because so-and-so ain't doing it.
Right.
I ain't going to be the first because so-and-so ain't the first. I don't want to go through all that mess, because look at what they do to so-and-so. Dr. Francis Wilson said to the kid, no, if you help black people, they're going to kill you. the matrix. What white people don't want to acknowledge is that African people cannot arrive at their fullest consciousness, not their fullest, effectuate their fullest ability within white systems, within white society.
You know what's interesting with that whole idea, like the it's kind of like the who all gonna be there conversation. It's like we mount up for that for all the wrong reasons, right? But when it comes to stepping in African power, we gotta have these trepidations around. Well, I ain't gonna be the first one to do it, so why should I? But we'll mount up for anything to protect and keep perpetuating the ideas of blackness or what's being put out there by the Matrix. And we'll keep protecting what the Matrix has given us.
Keep going.
Very easily do that.
Yeah.
We'll very easily mount up and do that and hold on. That's Gucci's a great store. All this other BS.
Why we can't do
actually
both?
In the opposite. Why we can't do both? Like seriously.
Black women.
Anything that's in the contrary to us mounting up in the space of African. Why? Because we've gotten so accustomed to these ideas of Africanness or what Africa means from people that aren't from Africa.
Yeah.
For people that aren't basing their understanding and value systems in the value systems of African-centered consciousness.
Yeah.
So how are you going to take their counsel on what it means to be African and then look at other Africans that are studying and being within it like they fucking crazy? Like they
look at me like I'm crazy all the time.
How? Well, why would you say that? Because this is that. Yeah, you know who wrote that book? Wasn't African. It's probably some white lady that would just stay there for like 3 weeks, hung out with kids or whatever. And then try to post a commercial saying for 10 cents a day, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. No, that ain't your source. You have to go to the source if you want the truth. You have to go to the source if you want the truth and to be the truth for other people once you get an understanding of what it is.
Be the truth. Don't talk about it too much.
Yeah.
Be the truth.
Stop.
You have to be the truth. Also, I ain't responsible for nobody. All right.
That radical individualism will fuck you up.
Oh, no, that was a trick. That was a big trick.
Because that's not how things go. And the ideas of any type of success and thriving for any community, any culture, any group, it is the group dynamic. It is the strength of the team. It is the strength of the family. It is the strength of the support system. African proverb goes, you want to go fast, go long. You want to go far, go together. Right? You want to go far. You want to have longevity. You want to create legacy. You want to create a system of healing. You want to get that goal actually activated. You need to go together. Ain't no radical individualism out here. You've been taught that by this Matrix. You've been taught that by these folks that don't care about dividing up and throwing somebody under the bus if it means that they'll be absolved or whatever the situation is. I don't know them. That doesn't work for us because we're already in the pressure cooker around our human experience. We're out here dying by the minute at the hands of the system, at the hands of us by virtue of the residuals of what the system has taught us and ingrained in us. So we're in a double battle. Triple battle with other cultures that uphold anti-blackness. It may not look like physical attack, but it may look like barring you from being in certain spaces, right? That you may actually need to get to.
There's been a disruption.
It's a disruption in all the way around.
Trajectory, yes. There's definitely been a huge disruption.
We're not with that.
Yep.
We're not with that. So
this is our journey, African. And I mean, at the end of the day, you're gonna hear it here. You're gonna hear the truth. It's not gonna be watered down.
No.
And it's not a fight either. It's not a fight. The greatest fight you're gonna have is gonna be the fight in your mind. To get out of your mind, that's the biggest fight you're gonna have, because once African frequency and vibration is collectively moving in a unison, like water, it won't be no need. It won't be no need. Our people won't be left out struggling. Our people won't be left out there feeling lonely. Our people won't have to turn their hands onto each other, hurting each other. Because you got our people, because you decide, we should do both. You want to buy Gucci, well, guess what? There's a little kid out here right now that think Gucci is the move. And because he don't have it, he going to come knock you over the head and take it.
Why?
That's what you get ready to do. Because you thought that the value system that Gucci was that. That Gucci was the top of the line. That Gucci mean you have value. That Gucci mean you have worth.
Versace and Balenciaga, all these things you're not even pronouncing on a regular basis.
So now there's a youth out here whose parents have succumbed to whatever other ill in the Matrix, who maybe this child is out there up with a group of kids that's not doing what's good and what's right. And these young people are out here lonely without being poured into. There's no Africans out here poured into these youth. There's black women in the junior high schools and high schools that are bribing these young men instead of teaching these young men the truth about the truth. That's what's out here in the world. That's what's going on right now with our youth. Yeah, you need to tell us. And see, this is the problem. This is why this is the side that makes you split loyalties. It forces you. Why do you want to be in a situation that forces you to go against your greatest good? And your greatest good is the children. You can't even tell the kids the truth. You can't even tell the children. And what you
so
need
dangerous.
to say for these kids, they done made it so that you can't even say certain things to these children. These children are going to turn against you if you say certain things against these children.
Right.
If you say certain things about the truth, about African heritage, and about civilized people in this planet, and African civilization, unless you mask it in a certain kind of way under that Egyptology stuff, you're not going to be able to fortify our youth the way our youth need, because our youth are still dropping out of school. They're still fortifying the prisons. Our youth are growing up, ending up in the prison system. How is this happening? You come to you run into a young person from Haiti. You run into a young person from the diaspora, from a continental African, and they cannot understand how our children behave in school. It's foreign to them. Like, how dare you be able to disrespect the teacher? How can you raise your voice at the teacher? This doesn't happen in some countries. It is unacceptable. And then you want to know why there's a certain type of discipline that is coming out of other people's culture that comes here to America that ends up you get put to the side. That's what happens. But what can we learn from each other instead of judging and going against each other? Because there's a long list. So like I said, what did this little guy do to this whole big guy right here to gain leverage? Any and everything possible it's going to do. See, I'm not going to tell you, you're a person who's overweight, and I'm going to say, hey, just get a bigger dress. I'm going to tell you that, you know what? You're overweight. You're morbidly obese, and that's unhealthy. And if you want to be healthy and you want to be a better contributor to the space, no, but you know what the Matrix did? The Matrix just said, let's make bigger clothes for all of these big people. You know why? Because it's not going to stop feeding you the biophysiological manipulating foods. Because McDonald's is a federally traded company. Burger King is a federally traded company. Coca-Cola, Nestle. All these companies, they're federally traded companies, and they're not going to stop selling you the junk.
Right.
So what they've done is they've manipulated you to telling you, okay, you're going to continue, because now we have a sedentary lifestyle now. The majority of us have sedentary lifestyles. So yeah, we're getting wider and wider and wider and wider and wider. Right.
And you can, and a lot of us will sit here, even with that particular conversation, no body shaming and things like that. No, no one deserves to be body shamed or anything like that. No, but at the same time, you got to understand what attributes to your health, right? And all those pieces that you're accepting. If you can be beguiled into cigarettes are amazing, to that fucking line,
large.
What do you think about food? What do you think about these processed foods and these experiences around food? And then you got to talk about depression and all these other things and what leads you to do these things. It builds up, and then before you know it, you're 30, 100 pounds heavier than what it is not a whole conversation about that, but this is the example around like the things that we're accepting and essentially the lies that we're telling ourselves that are based in a framework that's been lying to us for centuries about who we are, right? Why? Because whatever we believe in that they say is going to help you feed that system, right? It's going to help you buy those products. Right? That means they get the money. There's so much things operating and then within our space that not just Africans experience, everybody's experiencing on the lower rungs of this communal system of you have to believe this so you can feed this system. We actually don't care about you. You're a casualty of whatever it is, even if you're white, whatever. You're a casualty of this because we just need to make our money. We need to stay on top. We need to continue the power dynamics because we don't want to fall. It's a survival thing for them. It's a survival thing for you folks. All the control and the powers that be taught is about survival. As long as we have this money, as long as we have these people believing that we're on top, as long as we have people believe that this is what they need and we have it, then we're maintaining our control. We're maintaining our lives, and we can hopefully support our survival. Whatever it takes.
I have to tell you this. So I just told you guys a story, right? In our social context right now in 2021. And in 2021, we don't tell people that they're obese and that they're in tragic detriment of comorbidities that can make them sick. What we tell them is nobody shaming, and we just make bigger clothes so that people can wear these clothes and we can try to clap for them and say they look nice for having confidence in being morbidly obese, which is making a choice. But partly not, because my interpretation of it is food as a drug addiction. It's an addiction. When you're morbidly obese, it's an addiction. But let me tell you what it was in 1920. In 1920, they had people smoking cigarettes, and they told people to stay slender. If you crave, wait. Let me tell you. Let me read it to you. In 1920, the cigarette ad said, "Reach for a Lucky when you crave something sweet. That's the easiest way I know to keep you from getting fat."
That's the dumb shit they were selling people in the 20s.
It's toasted, okay? There's another cigarette ad. These are from 1920.
Sweet.
There's another cigarette ad that says, "More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette." More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette.
And by virtue of capitalism, they just so to believe that they can just say whatever.
Viceroys, filter the smoke as your dentist would recommend. Okay?
What? Your dentist?
Your dentist.
Knowing what that does to your teeth? Your dentist will recommend it so you can come in and give them money.
Right.
That's the agreement.
20,679 physicians say Luckies are less irritating. It's toasted. This is ad. These are cigarette. These are cigarette ads. Okay, Lucky cigarettes, Chesterfield cigarettes, Camel cigarettes, and Viceroy. These are ads. Okay, and Marlboros. Gee, Dad, you always get the best of everything, even Marlboros.
It was a baby.
With a baby.
The baby in the ad.
Yes, you need never feel oversmoked. That's the miracle of Marlboro. This is a baby on the front cover of this. And now what we know in 2020, we've been talking about secondhand cigarette smoke, how it causes cancer. We now know that it's all on the box of cigarettes that cigarettes can cause cancer.
But this is
what they were doing to sell cigarettes. These are the lies that they were feeding in numbers. Blatant lies that they were feeding to the masses to sell tobacco processed cigarettes to the masses. This is what they were doing. This ad is actually a baby on this ad. I don't understand. Why would they have a baby and cigarettes?
Babies are cute.
Cigarettes, babies are cute.
That's exactly. Marketing. That's communications. Marketing. That's just what it is. See, things like that. And when you talk about like even then, like it was just like free for all on the lies, right? Just anything to sell something, a product, right? So you talk about in today, where people have the conversation around big pharma and the pharmaceutical industry and how it ties into corporations and the power structure of this governmental system, right? And how that feeds into the system. They're all working in cahoots. When you think of something like this, where it's like, look, I'm going to guarantee you patience. Here's a cigarette. Just help us sell this. Put your image on here. Put a baby on here or two. Help us sell these things. And these people, whatever happens to them, you never know. That means that they'll come to you and you get some business, right? You just give them some medicines or give them some things to maintain it, and you can keep your business. Dentists, promote this. It may cause yellowing of the teeth or whatever, but guess what? That means now you have more patients and you can keep your practice open.
Yep.
These are the conversations that get to be had of what's the buy-in? What will be the buy-in to have these people agree to do these things? These people that are supposed to be helping you, allegedly put in place to help you.
The dentist,
the doctors. The
doctors telling you to smoke.
Telling you to smoke. They told you to smoke at one point.
20,679 physicians say Luckies are less irritating because it's toasted. So exactly, why would you continue to smoke if you're smoking something that's irritating to your throat? That's an indicator that something might not be right.
But that's just things like this are just an example of the lies that are being told that we have been accustomed to believing in, and that we now condition ourselves to uphold. And in turn, we take that back to our community. And then how does that deconstruct our understanding of our African value system, our understanding of taking hold and ownership of our own humanity, of our own Africanness, in the face of what we're being told to be, or what we're being told to do. The structures at work here that are constantly been at work, that will look on varying levels, that can be a smiling face, that can be a sweet voice, but still telling you to jump to your doom.
Yep, jump to your death. Why don't you? Sure. It's wonderful. It's great. Have fun.
And that affects our youth, but then become the ones that are consuming these things, right? Going back to your point of you know, you're being told the truth. Let's lie to the kids. So if you're the one telling the truth that this is what's happening, these people are doing this X, Y, and they're going in and they can't compute the difference of these people are smiling and nice to me because it's an emotional response. Because again, we're familial, emotional, relationship-based people. Well, these people are nice to me. So how could you say they're this? Then that means you now must be the enemy. Because that's already been conditioned. And again, it's epigenetic. So there's a trigger that even in the babies or in the kids that'll realize that black doll, white doll experiment, where they know innately that there's something that's essentially been defined as wrong in who they are. They're coping by just like, I'm going to make friends and we're going to be good. I'm going to be a good person and a good kid to these other kids. And now you're the parent that's telling them the truth. You become the enemy. So what do? You lie and you feed into the lie. You feed into the holidays that say this is good for you, and you run away from holidays like what that did give you value systems like Kwanzaa, or to run away from being taught the depths of the education of leaders like a Malcolm X who have been demonized and become a monster, and only recently, within the past maybe 5 years, has been uplifted and upheld in people's minds on a grander scale. Now that he's gone, right? Just like Martin Luther King, they were fighting him at every turn. Especially when he stepped into the same mindset of doing this work in alignment with Malcolm, which is quote unquote more militant or more in the way from non-violence or looking at a more staunch attitude against the systemic oppression and these racist factors, right? And back then they were public enemy number one. Now it's they throw a Martin Luther King quote at you so damn fast, your head will spin.
Martin Luther King did
what would Martin Luther King do?
What?
He did those things. You killed him. What else? What else you got?
Keep that same energy. We start talking that reparations conversation.
No, we fall into I guess you're right. I guess I gotta be more Martin Luther King like. No, you need to be more Martin Luther King like and stop listening to these motherfuckers. That's what you need to do. So take that.
Lord have mercy. I want us to see these ads that they were using for us. We're gonna post them. We're gonna post them, y'all. We're gonna post them. And I want you to understand that it's important that you have an ability, It's a reality of us understanding how the messaging is centered. Because this is good for you now, but it's bad for you later. Right. Johnson & Johnson's baby powder was good for you at one point, but now they have class action lawsuits because say that the talcum powder and the aluminum inside these powders were causing cancers in women. And we was putting this stuff on us. And let me tell you, we were walking out the street. I used to see the folks walking out. My mother never did that foolishness, but some of the folks used to have powder packed on their necks. Right?
That was a sign he was clean.
But we didn't know.
He was fresh.
That was letting everybody
know fresh and clean. I got powder on my neck.
He was fresh, right?
I thought that shit was weird as a kid, but I still did it sometimes.
Just letting everybody know we just came. We just had a shower. Like,
let me open up my neck a little more. Let me open up my button up and show the neck a little bit.
So that everybody would know that you just took a shower. Because why you need to let me?
Oh, he clean. He good. Shower? I can see him from here.
Because what? If my grandma said something, you never supposed to have dirty nails as a man. Never have dirty fingernails. Oh, yeah, well, if you got dirty
I'm out here
digging
in dirt now, so
because it's a thing from from Jim Crow South. If you worked in the field, white people look down on you because that means you worked in the field. If you had dirty fingernails, okay, and that means you was unkept. So, but this is our way of letting you know that the narrative is based on selling a product.
Yeah,
it's not for your best interest, and nobody should be telling you that something that's bad for you is good for you. That have your best interest at heart. Somebody will interpret that as saying something negative. If your persuasion to this inclination is to interpret this in some way that is not fortifying for the African, that's you, not us. Okay?
I'm not responsible for your interpretation.
Yeah, I'm not going to do
I'm responsible for the truth I give out.
So, family, we about to wrap this thing, but I want to make sure y'all go out with a big bang, as we always do, out here in these streets. And we want to thank everybody who has come in and who has shared the show tonight, y'all. Always for sharing the show, coming in for African Go to Meet.
Absolutely, that's what we're doing. And just so y'all stay in tune with what we got going on. Remember, for the little house cleaning situation, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Soundbytes International Radio. Make sure you hit subscribe on that, and you can view it as well. You're on the go. If you're not on your Facebook, then you can hit up the YouTube. But You can also hit us up on Facebook. You can be watching now. Like and follow us on Facebook at Soundbytes INTL Radio. You can also follow us on Instagram, Soundbytes International Radio. You can hit us up on the Instagrams, where we share little tidbits and soundbites of these conversations daily. And also remember, you can actually follow us, Soundbytes International Radio, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We're available to listen to our past seasons and to get us with you on the go, right? Listen to it in your headphones while you're walking, while you're thinking and sitting in the park, whatever you're going to be doing, we can be right there with you, all right? And remember, as you see scrolling down at the bottom there, you can visit our website. This is soundbytes.com. It's soundbytes.com, where you can also access these particular other channels, funnel through there. And also, remember, if you find value in what we provide here with Soundbytes International Radio, you can contribute. You can leave an any size gift available that you feel is worth the value and gratitude by hitting the submit to Soundbytes or contribute to Soundbytes Radio button, or you can go to our Soundbytes Radio Cash App, which is $Soundbytes Radio. Again, African owned, Black owned business we're talking about today. So if you find value in what's being brought here, or just being in a space where it's checking in with us, being with us on these broadcasts each week, if you feel so inclined, please feel free to leave a gift that helps us support and keep things running. But we keep doing this regardless, because we know that there's something that needs to be done and the truth needs to be shared.
We need to affirm our African people.
Absolutely. That's what we're here to do. So we're here to share these experiences on the daily. So we appreciate y'all, family, for tapping in. Thank everybody that tapped in today. Peace and power, Brother Allah. Thank you for tuning in with us, Mother Queen. Brother Nathaniel on the YouTube, actually, we appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. Absolutely. All those who shared, Sister Dot Singh for sharing, thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in and sharing in the experience, right? This is Soundbytes International Radio. African consciousness to claim, one world is the aim. You know how we do. Monday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we thank God for joining in today. Please continue the conversation. If you missed the forecast, you know you can just go back and share back, watch the replay, and continue to share your comments and thoughts. We appreciate your thoughts on these topics. And let us know if there's any other topics that you want us to talk about for the future. We appreciate that and communing with the family. So
African filter family.
Absolutely. So before we go, of course, we got to go out on the high note, get the energy with the brother Bricks, featuring myself, Pat P, and AJ Throwback. This is I Am. Stepping into your affirmation, step into your power, the power of your I Am. Because anything you say after I am, it is deemed so in the universal landscape, period. Absolutely. So we're going to jump into this I Am. Stick around. The video is out now. Make sure you get in tune with that I Am video, and stay in tune with us, people. Stay connected. So sit tight. Let's make it happen, family. You already know. One love. Soundbytes International Radio.
I walk the face of the earth with a boldness which makes people ask who sent you. I tell them I am. They tell me that's a cute affirmation, but it's not an answer. I reply, listen again. My affirmation is your answer.
Reach the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny that. Hear the proof in the hi-hat. Hey, turn the reflection, I digress. I love me more, never love less. I love me more, never love less. Turn $1,000,000 dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Look deep inside, yeah, you be the blessing. $1,000,000 dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Anything I want, yeah, turn up. This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny the power of I am. Handsome chocolate mofo, yo. Anytime I'm on GoPro, lyrical high home growth. Living spots with a coke so low. This is without morale so low. So I pitched it fast, pitch it slow. To the cows call home, bro. It didn't make sense. I was told as a child I wouldn't be shit. Revenge on my mind, started flipping the script. They fed me lies, started picking that shit. They treated me different, I embraced that shit. You know the ones that be closest to you, to be the family ties. Sacred bonds, seeing plenty murder, dirty service, ludicrous. Cock up with a dirty burner. But bet I believed in me 1,000%. Bet I achieved what I was saying here again. And I couldn't resist. Kill these niggas with their toxicness without a popping pistol monotonous. Told myself I couldn't rock with this. Hanging with goofies couldn't get rich. True blood suckers couldn't see bliss, couldn't see shit. Kiss cold face, nigga, you dead wrong. I ain't regurgitating, percolating, singing the same song. I'm blessed all day long, lame all day long. Having a form I'm a colonist, but denying the power thereof. Fuck nigga, I am.
Some people might say I'm wise. Well, they're absolutely right. I am wise. As in washed, cleansed, and purified of the nonsense they tried to attach to my context. I am resilient. I am more than a survivor. I am a thriver.
This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny that. Hear the proof in the hi-hat. Eternal reflection, I digress. I love me more, never love less. I love me more, never love less. Turn million dollar dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Look deep inside, yeah, you be the blessing. Million dollar dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Anything I want, yeah, turn up. This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny the power of I
She's
am.
inclined. I'm totally surprised that I ain't lost my mind. Had to take setbacks and learn to accept setbacks that those I gave jetpacks that no planes don't fly. Yeah, I'm in no space, so wasting my time. Focus my goals to shift paradigms. My get up and go to keep my folks from dying. So I'm on the road with a goal that's refined. Yeah, plotted with a mean vision. Reflected from every angle through a clean prism. Talk matter reflecting in the color and gray. When I lost my mother, found peace aside my queen, and I leaned in on my brothers. Yeah, bars was shaping up the grand scheme. I done wrestled to the mat on my damn demons. In a matter of time, became a champion. Now my everyday mantra to do the damn thing. So my aim to pack out every arena, inspire the future leaders with every line of the levers of gods and unbelievers. Do what they can't conceive us, love what we do and leave us. Brick, they never see us. Woo! God damn, I'm feeling good, motherfuck. What they say, I'm doing what they never would. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Get a grasp on your life, yeah. Pay many sacrificial prices. Podium done playing nice, yeah. They go to recognize who the nice is. From the north to the southeast, kicking others every lane, share about seats. I'm in line with it, man. You cannot be. Say anything I want, yeah, turn up.
Man, I ain't talking in terms of I wish, I want to, or even I will anymore. Only things I proclaim, I do, I have, and I am. I do as my ancestors instruct. I have all I need to affect change, and I am a living magnification of God.
This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny that. Hear the proof in the hi-hat. Eternal reflection, I digress. I love me more, never love less. I love me more, never love less. Turn million dollar dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Look deep inside, yeah, you be the blessing. Million dollar dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Anything I want, yeah, turn up. This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny the power of I am.
One love, Soundbytes Monday night from Facebook and YouTube. Until then, have a blessed night. Be well. And